Last week, the Supreme Court reversed a century of law that I believe will open the floodgates for special interests, including foreign corporations, to spend without limit in our elections. I don't think American elections should be bankrolled by America's most powerful interests, or worse, by foreign entities. They should be decided by the American people.
The Supreme Court today swept away rules that go back more than a century, rules that have constrained the way that corporate interests can influence the American political system. In 1907, Congress passed a law banning corporations from donating money directly to politicians. Over the next century, Congress passed a number of laws aimed at stopping corporate money from completely controlling America's political debate. They're laws that have been upheld multiple times by the Supreme Court, like in 1990 when the Supreme Court ruled it was constitutional to restrict corporate political spending, or 2003 when the Supreme Court ruled specifically that the McCain-Feingold corporate campaign finance rules were okay. Well, today, in one of the most radical Supreme Court actions in years, Justice Roberts and Alito and their 5-member conservative majority overthrew at least a decade of settled law and congressional action and multiple Supreme Court precedents to wipe those laws away. Corporations are free to inject unregulated billions, absolutely unlimited money, into the political system now. Going forward, corporations will be able to use unlimited money to support or oppose candidates in federal office. This isn't CEOs, individual rich guys using their private money. It isn't people forming political associations to do political work. It is big business being allowed to use its profits to flood the airwaves with ads against one candidate or for another. This ruling rolls back decades of protections against corporate interference and control of governance. Justice John Paul Stevens read from the bench his scathing 20-minute dissent of the court's decision today. He said, "The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people who have recognized a need to prevent corporations from undermining self-government since the founding. While American democracy is imperfect, few outside the majority of this court would have thought its flaws included a dearth of corporate money in politics." Today's ruling affects everything going forward. If this ruling is not curtailed somehow through legislation, I personally think it is impossible to overstate the impact this will have on American politics. Every major issue that our government deals with will change because the field has just been dramatically tilted, like 90 degrees tilted, toward corporate interests.
Over the course of a long career in journalism, I've covered the story of money in politics more than any other. From time to time, I've been hopeful about a change for the better. The truth is, it just keeps getting uglier every year. Those who write the checks keep on buying the results they want at the expense of the public. As a reputedly self-governing democracy, we desperately need to address the problems that we've created for ourselves. But money makes impossible the reforms that might save us. Nothing in this country seems to be working to anyone's satisfaction, except the wealth machine that rewards those who game the system. Unless we break their grip on our political institutions, their power to buy the agenda they want, no matter the cost to everyone else, we are finished as a functioning democracy. This is why I find the Supreme Court ruling so preposterous and ominous. 5 radical judges have taken a giant step toward legitimating the corporate takeover of democracy. One person, one vote? Stop kidding yourself. The huge sums of money that already flood our elections will now be multiplied many times over, most likely in secret. We'll never know what hit us, and like the Titanic, we'll go down, but with even fewer lifeboats.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts, in a decision that might actually have more dire implications than Dred Scott v. Sanford, declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people Any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional. In short, the First Amendment, free speech for persons, which went into effect in 1791, applies to corporations, which were not recognized as the equivalents of persons until 1886. And if they can spend all the money they want, sooner rather than later, they will implant the legislators of their choice in every office, from president to head of the visiting nurse service. And if senators and congressmen and governors and mayors and councilmen and everyone in between are entirely beholden to the corporations for election and re-election to office, soon they will erase whatever checks there might still exist to just slow down the ability of corporations to decide the laws. Because the people who can make it legal can now be entirely bought and sold. And the entirely bought and sold politicians can change any laws. And any legal defense you can structure now can be undone by the politicians who will be bought and sold into office this November or 2 years from now. And any legal defense which honest politicians can somehow wedge up against them this November or 2 years from now, that can be undone by the next even larger set of politicians who will be bought and sold into office in 2014 or 2016 or 2018. And now let's contemplate what the perfectly symmetrical, money-driven world of that order might look like. Be prepared first for laws criminalizing or at least neutering unions. In today's court decision, they are the weaker of the non-human sisters, unfettered by the court. So, as in ancient Rome or medieval England, they will necessarily be strangled by the stronger sibling, the corporations, so that they pose no further threat to the corporations' total control of our political system. Be prepared then for the reduction of taxes for the wealthy and for the corporations, and the elimination of the social safety nets for everybody else, because money spent on the poor means less money left for the corporations. Be prepared then for wars sold as the new products, which Andy Card once described them as, year after year, as if they were new Fox reality shows, because military-industrial complex corporations are still corporations. Be prepared then for the ban on same-sex marriage and on abortion and on evolution being taught and on separation of church and state